All right, so I just want to go ahead and get started because I want to be respectful of everyone's time. As I mentioned, there may be some students that are still going to be coming in and joining us, and also our department chair, Dr. Hector Morales, may also be joining us as well. But I wanted to go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Ashley Isaias. I'm the Advising Center Coordinator and Lead Academic Advisor in the College of Science Advising Center. We just wanted to say welcome on behalf of the college. We're so excited that you're here with us, that you picked Cal Poly. Hopefully the first few days of the fall semester have gone well. And so just wanted to say welcome. Also on this call though, we have one of our newer staff members, Francine, so I'll let her go ahead and introduce herself as well.
Hi everyone, my name is Francine Bonneville. I am the STEM Success Initiatives Coordinator. So at Cal Poly, we have programming for students who are incoming freshmen and transfer students, but what about all the rest of the students? And so my position is to be a part of collaborating with different departments and programs and to offer programming and resources for those in the coming years at Cal Poly.
Right, thank you, Francine. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and get started. Just wanna make sure everyone can see my screen okay. Hopefully you can. If you cannot, please let me know. I am going to be going through a few slides. We do have about 14 slides today. However, they go pretty quickly. Some of them I'll spend a little bit more time than others. So the agenda for today is first, we're just going to go through some housekeeping items. Second is I'm going to review some important dates for the term that I sent out actually with this invitation. Then review some tips for success, go over your curriculum sheet and roadmaps. Review your degree progress report, transfer credit, AP credit, kind of answer some of those questions, review some advising resources, and then do some department updates. And then lastly, we'll open it up for questions. I don't want you to forget your question, so if you have a question, you can put it in the chat. I probably won't get to it till the end, but at least, you know, just so you don't lose your question, you can go ahead and type it into the chat. All right, so just some housekeeping items. As I mentioned, please feel free to put questions in the chat. We will answer them at the end. Also, as I mentioned, if you could update your Zoom name to your first and last name, just so that when I take a registration list, I can go ahead and see who attended. And then if you don't mind just keeping yourself muted, at least through the presentation, just so I know in this Zoom world we can hear, you know, pets, siblings, moms, dads. And so we just want to make sure that everyone's able to hear clearly and able to hear just everything that I'm sharing with you all today. Just as an FYI, this session is being recorded. So what I am actually going to be doing is recording this session and putting it on YouTube so that your fellow colleagues who could not make today, if they wanted to catch this information, or if you wanted to review this information at a later date, you could also see it on our YouTube channel. So what I'm going to be doing is sending this link out along with the slides as well as a PDF, just so you can have all these links that I'm about to share with you. Any questions before I begin? All right. So important dates and deadlines. So we are already on September 1st. Happy September, everyone. It's crazy to think that this year has gone by so quickly. But what I wanted to share first is September 2nd. So that's the most important date that I wanted to kind of highlight today. September 2nd is, September 2nd is the end of our add drop period. So September 2nd, basically what that means is you can add and drop classes between August 10th, which started a few weeks ago, until tomorrow at 11:59 p.m. So you want to make sure that you are solidifying your schedule, because after tomorrow, you cannot add any more courses. Now, you can still drop courses after tomorrow. So beginning September 3rd through the 17th, you can still withdraw and receive what's called a W. A W does not impact your GPA. It just is a withdrawal from the course. And so it just shows that you didn't drop it within the add drop period. So W, again, does not impact your GPA, but it will show up on your transcript as a W. So in case you're thinking about going to grad school, you may not necessarily want W's on your record. September 7th is a Labor Day holiday. For any of you that were admitted to our graduation pledge program, our priority registration program, the deadline to submit all that documentation, I know Christy in our office has been sending numerous emails to you all. That deadline is coming up on September 11th. The other date though that I wanted to highlight is September 18th. So again, between September 3rd and September 17th, you can go into Bronco Direct and withdraw yourself from any course that you're enrolled in. You cannot add because that period has ended, but you can withdraw yourself. However, if let's say after September 18th, you still want to withdraw from courses, you actually have to do this through a serious and compelling reason through a petition for serious and compelling reasons. What this means is, unfortunately, let's say someone has something that's outside of their control, they get sick, a family member gets sick, and they need to withdraw from courses. They can do that after September 18th or beginning September 18th, but you will need a petition. And so just kind of wanted to explain that to you all. This is a sheet that we give to every student in the College of Science. So I just sent this out to about 4,400 students a few weeks ago. And so we give this information at the beginning of each term. So every term you'll get this information from us. However, at the very bottom and on the sheet that I sent you all in the email, it has our social media. So we actually also post a lot of these dates and information on our social media accounts as well. So I'll put that plug in there and I'll have that our social media accounts at the end of our presentation. Beginning in October, we have registration. So a lot of students are always wondering, okay, so I just registered for fall, I just attended orientation. What does that look like for spring? So we do have a winter session here at Cal Poly Pomona. It's usually pretty short though. So we only have usually 1 or 2 unit courses being offered, not full 3 unit courses, just because the timing of the winter intersession is a little bit shorter. However, I did put the dates on there for priority and general registration. The biggest dates though that you want to be focusing on are October 12th through the 13th and October 14th through December 2nd. So if you are an athlete, if you have any veterans resource benefits or are part of any program that gives you priority registration, you'd be registering October 12th through the 13th. That's a few days before everyone else starts to register. Beginning October 14th, that's when general registration opens up. Now, I wanted to highlight a few things because a lot of students will email me and say, oh, Ashley, registration begins on October 14th, but I'm a freshman and my date's not till, let's say, maybe October 19th. That's correct. So the way that that works is October 14th is when seniors start registering. They usually get 2 or 3 days. Then it's juniors. They get another 2 or 3 days. Then it's sophomores, and then it's freshmen. And so you're kind of assigned by class level. And so that's how you're assigned a specific date, and you're also assigned a specific time. So for example, there may be a senior that gets an October 14th date at 8:30 a.m. and there'd be maybe another senior that gets a registration time of maybe October 14th at 5 p.m. So that information is all listed, on your Bronco Direct account. The rest of the dates, I'm not going to go into too much detail just because you'll be able to read that on the screen there. But one of the things that I did want to mention is for spring registration, we're not going to have a group setting where we'll all be in a Zoom room and you'll be registering. You'll actually be registering on your own for those classes. And so we'll talk a little bit about advising and what that might look like in just a little bit. Okay, so just some overall tips for success, and these are tips that not only our incoming students can benefit, but any student really at Cal Poly Pomona. So one is regularly checking your CPP email. Congratulations and kudos to you all. I have to give you a round of applause because you all are here. So that means you actually looked at your email and we're checking your Cal Poly Pomona emails. That's a great first step. Second, though, is checking your Bronco Direct account. I cannot stress this enough. On your Bronco Direct account, there may be some holds on your account, or financial aid may have put a to-do list item, or you needed to update certain things. And so it's just really important that you're always checking your Bronco Direct account, and I'll have a screenshot here in just a second to show you what I mean. Next is understanding how to read your degree progress report. Your degree progress report is individualized and customized to you. And so curriculum sheet is one thing, but your degree progress report is actually really what you want to be looking at. And that is what we use to actually graduate you from the university. Next is being aware of advising and registration timelines. So as I kind of mentioned that slide before, maybe if you want to print that out, it was sent to you as a PDF. So I have it printed and posted on my wall in front of me. If you want to put those dates in your phone, as you're on your calendar, however you want to stay organized, but definitely knowing when those dates and times are. Next is taking 30 units per year. And so what we mean by that is most students want to graduate within 4 years. And so most programs require 120 units to graduate. And so if we do 120 units divided by 4, that's about 4 years. That would be 30 units every academic year. So 15 in the fall, 15 in the spring. And so that's usually kind of the calculation that we use. And so we encourage students to do that. If for whatever reason you don't want to do 15 units in the fall or spring, there's always summer as well that you can always catch up and take a class or two. Next is getting involved in clubs, which creates connection and belonging. And so we talked a little bit about this at orientation, but I just want to go ahead and put a plug in here as well. You have My Bar. There's a lot of opportunities right now over the next few weeks where they're having virtual sessions for clubs and organizations. Your department may also send out some recommendations as well. We cannot stress this enough, especially in the virtual environment, to stay connected and be plugged in. There's over about 30 clubs in the College of Science, but then university-wide, there's hundreds of clubs that you can join. So it could be a club that's related to your major or not related to your major. That's really up to you. Next is academic. If you're having any academic difficulties, to seek out faculty in their office hours or get tutoring via the Learning Resource Center. And I'll go ahead and share a little bit more of that in just a second. But definitely if you are struggling or if you have a question, please reach out to us. We are here to help you and support you through this transition. We refer to our office as kind of being the college navigators or your college navigators. And so we'd love to assist you and partner with you in any way that we can. And then lastly, get regular advising to stay on track. I did want to pause here and welcome Dr. Hector Morales, our physics department chair. I know he just joined us, so he will be sharing some information a little bit. I don't know if you wanted to say anything, Dr. Morales, but I can continue on with my presentation if you'd like.
Please do.
Okay. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and dive in. So this is, I'm going to explain what's called our curriculum sheets and our roadmaps. And so I am actually going to talk about physics specifically, and so this is why I separated all of you by department. So let's go ahead and let it load here. Okay. All right, so I just want to make sure, can everyone see my screen with the curriculum sheet on the screen here?
Yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. Okay, so I'm going to start with biophysics. And so the reason why I want to explain this and go into details because a lot of students have questions. What am I supposed to take? What are the classes that I'm supposed to take? When am I supposed to take them? All kinds of questions. And so I just want to make sure that everyone is kind of understanding of what they need to take in order to graduate. So this is a curriculum sheet. Every major within the university has a curriculum sheet. And this is the curriculum that was decided upon and voted upon by the physics faculty members. So one thing to note is every year there's a curriculum sheet that's released. And so because all of you were admitted in fall of 2020, you will always be following the 2020 to 2021 curriculum year. So you will never want to look at a previous year. You'll never want to look at a future year. You want to actually be following the one that's listed and that you were admitted under. So for biophysics, there's a minimum units required, which is 120 units. So in order to obtain a biophysics degree, you must complete 120 units and also everything listed on this curriculum sheet. I have a lot of students that'll say, especially for transfers, as I know I have some transfers on the call, they'll have maybe a lot of units already and they'll say, okay, I've reached 120 units, Ashley, can I graduate? So then I always say, okay, one requirement is the 120 units, but the other requirement is making sure that you have fulfilled every single degree requirement listed on this sheet. And so you want to make sure that you are completing both of those requirements. So I'm going to start off with general education first, which is 48 units. So out of those 120, 48 units are going to be general education courses. There are different areas for general education. So there's area A, English language communication and critical thinking. Area B, scientific inquiry and quantitative reasoning. Area C, arts and humanities. Area D, social sciences. And area E, lifelong learning and self-development. Within these areas, there's different numbers or different units required. So area A requires 9 units, area B 12 units, etc. You have to take a course per every area. So A1, you would just take one course there. A2, you would take one course in area A2. You do not need to take multiple GEs in these areas. And I'm going to talk about a course list and everything like that in just a second, so you can know like what classes you can be taking per all of these areas. Next, though, what I wanted to talk about is just some other requirements. So American institutions, this is going to be 6 units. And American Cultural Perspectives, this is 3 units. The CSU determined that they want every graduate that comes to the CSU to take a US history and a political science of government course, American government course. The great thing about this is covered in your D1 and D2 areas. So as long as you take the courses in these 2 areas, this American Institutions and the American Cultural Perspectives requirement will be met. So if you are a transfer student, this may look a little bit different. You can always talk to an advisor, reach out to the advising center if you have any questions as a transfer student. Lastly, though, is the graduation writing test, or the GWT. As a transfer student, it says usually at the completion of 60 units for undergraduates. As a transfer student, you probably already have 60 units. Because of COVID, though, right now that GWT requirement is not being offered, so you cannot fulfill that requirement. But hopefully when we are back on campus, that requirement will be able to be completed at a later time. So that's general education. The great thing about general education, is it does not change from term to term. So it stays consistent. Let's say you want to change out of physics. Hopefully you don't, because physics is a great major, and I'm sure Dr. Morales can agree with me. But general education does not change. So if you end up changing your major, GEs will stay the same. So that's just one thing to kind of note. Now, and going into the major requirements. So major required, this is 44 units here. You have to take every single course listed in this area here. So chemistry, calculus, math, physics, all of these classes you must take. So there's not really any deviation from this at all. Next, though, is subplan option required. These are different between the different options in physics. So there's biophysics, there's integrated science, and there's general physics. So for biophysics, there's a requirement of 16 units here that you have to complete. This includes biology, full year biology, the second semester of chemistry, and thermal and statistical physics. And then there's electives here. This is 19 units. I want to kind of highlight this and just say that you don't have to take all of these classes. There's a lot of ors in bold here. So you have to kind of read the fine print. So this first section says select 2 units, so 1 pair of a lab and activity course from the following list. So that means you can choose to take Physics 4510A and the lab, or 4520A activity and the lab. So you don't have to take them both. You want to pay attention, special attention to those or requirements. As far as this column goes, you have these and or requirements. You want to read the fine print, as I kind of mentioned. Then the remaining 10 units can be selected from the following list. So you could take maybe microbiology, anatomy, physiology, genetics, etc. So I just wanted to kind of highlight that and make sure that that was understood there. The other thing, though, that I wanted to highlight and mention is, I kind of zoomed in a little bit, because there's little indicators at the end of each course. So for example, for Calculus 1, once you take Math 1140, this actually satisfies area B4. The B4 that we're talking about here is mathematics, quantitative, and reasoning. So it double counts for you. And so these are really key things that you want to pay attention to, because for most physics majors, area B, a lot of area B is going to be covered by your major. So you don't want to take other random GEs in these areas. You actually want to take the courses that are listed here that are affiliated with the certain areas on the right-hand column. The only areas really that covers is in area B. All the other GE areas, you kind of have a choice of what courses you want to take for those classes. All right. Next, I want to talk about general. So I'm going to kind of go through it again. I'm not going to go through GE because, as I mentioned earlier, this is pretty much the same. So I don't want to go into too much detail. With general physics, again, 44 units are required. And then, as I mentioned, these subplan option electives are different than biophysics. These are actually general physics subplan option electives. So in biophysics, it was like a full year of biology, the second semester of chemistry. This is a little bit different. In this one, you're going to take advanced classical mechanics, quantum mechanics, electricity, and magnetism. So these are different courses here. So you want to be sure that you're looking at the correct curriculum and not taking the wrong courses. Electives are also different too. For this general option, you have two emphasis areas, astrophysics and a general emphasis. Now, Dr. Morales, feel free to jump in at any time if you'd like. But astrophysics and general emphasis, you don't have to necessarily pick an emphasis. You just can follow it as a guide to complete the 14 to 15 units required. And again, you want to pay special attention to the ors and the ands that are listed here as well.
Yeah, listen, guys, you're all going to have the word astronomy on your diploma hanging over the chimney of your living room someday, okay? And in many schools, these are different disciplines or different departments altogether. As I've said before, if you want to emphasize this, then in 4 years, you'll be conversant, you'll be fluent in enough of this stuff for you to be eligible, and you'll be equivalent to having majored in astronomy in effective ways. So our faculty have designed it that way. You'll be good enough, okay? But no matter what, you at least should know where the North Star is, because astronomy is going to be on your degree.
Yes, yes. Okay, so next is integrated science. So again, not going to go through the general education courses. Major required, those are all still the same, consistent across all three options. The difference with integrated science is subplan option. So 26 units here. Again, these are different courses than the other two options within physics. And then you have your subplan option electives for a total of 16 units. So I just wanted to kind of give that information here about the curriculum sheet. And in addition to that, I wanted to share on this website, there's also what's called roadmaps. So these are really key tools to use as well. Now the roadmaps are just seen as a guide. You do not have to follow these exactly, because the students will ask me and say, do I have to follow this, to the T? You do not have to. So for example, as a freshman, you may not necessarily be taking an area E or an area A2 this semester, and that's okay. And so you can go ahead and move those around. This is just kind of a guide that was prepared by faculty, by the physics faculty, to kind of pair courses together. It is helpful though to just use it as a resource. There's a few things or a few reasons why it's helpful. One is it has prerequisites listed here. There's a few ways to look up prerequisites, but this is just one of the ways that you can do that. Prerequisites are, you have to take a certain course before taking that course. So for example, chemistry 1210. You have all of these classes, and these are all very similar courses. We just have the quarter equivalent and the semester equivalent. Usually, as long as you've taken trigonometry or algebra or calculus, you can go ahead and start taking chemistry. And so this just kind of is a neat list here. It also tells you when the course is offered. So F is for fall, SP is for spring, SU is for summer. And then it also tells you the units that are affiliated with each course. So again, this is just used as a guide. There's year 1, year 2, year 3, year 4. So as a transfer student, you may be looking at maybe year 3 and year 4 a little bit more closely than year 1 and year 2. So it just kind of depends, and you can kind of use it as you see fit. And for each of the options within physics, there's a roadmap. So there's biophysics roadmap, there's a general roadmap, and there's also an integrated science roadmap. Okay. Next, though, as I promised, I wanted to share an actual list of general education courses. So this is information that's listed on our catalog here. So as I mentioned, on the curriculum sheet, on the very farthest right-hand column, there's like area A1, A2, A3, etc. And so you may say, Ashley, what classes can I take for those areas? So these are all the GEs that have been approved to take in those areas. And so if you wanted to see, for example, a little bit more information about COM 1100, which is our public speaking class, you can go ahead and click this link and it'll give you a little description here. As I mentioned, and it says it right here, students must take one course from each area. So you do not need to take more than one. So in area A1, you don't need to take both COM 1100 and COM 2204. It's just one of those courses. So this is the catalog here. And so I usually just also tell students you can also use the catalog to look up prerequisites, as I kind of mentioned earlier. So on the roadmap, there's prerequisites, but also in the catalog, you can put in any course here into the search function. So for example, Physics 1510, you can click this and it'll give you a description, but it'll also tell you what the prerequisites are. So again, for Physics 1510, you need a C- or better in Calculus 1, which is Math 1140, or Calculus 2, which is Math 1150. In addition, it also tells you the co-requisites. What that means is you have to take Physics 1510 lecture along with the lab. That's what a definition of a co-requisite is. You have to take those two courses together. So the catalog is a great resource that I wanted to also highlight as well. As I mentioned, I'm going to send out this PDF with all these links, so you'll have this, and then this will also be recorded, so you can go ahead and reference it at any point. Okay, I'm going to pause there and ask if there's any questions before I kind of move on to my next slide. Okay, great. Okay, so as I mentioned, we have the curriculum sheet, which I just kind of went into detail about. But then you also have what's called your degree progress report. In my time at Cal Poly Pomona, I've seen students print out their curriculum sheet and they'll kind of check off things as they go along. They'll highlight things. There's really, you can do that definitely if you'd like. But the cleanest way to kind of track your degree progress is actually using your degree progress report. There's actually 2 videos here that I'm not going to play, but it'll show you how to find your degree progress report and your transfer credit report. I've actually attached some screenshot examples of both of these just so I can kind of explain it to you. But I'd also encourage you to go back on your own and look through these resources as well and how to find them and what other information can be found on there. So first thing is a student center screenshot. So this is one of your colleagues here, an incoming physics student. And so I mentioned a few things. One is you always want to be looking at this box here. This is your holds box on your student center account. And so for your student center, this particular student didn't have any holds, which is great. We don't want any holds on this box. And if there is a hold, this hold would prevent the student from registering for courses. There's also what's called the to-do list item. The university will put things on your to-do list if, let's say, you needed to do the ALEX PPL assessment requirement, which is your placement to take calculus here at Cal Poly Pomona. So the student may need to take this course, or excuse me, may need to take this assessment. There's also a Title IX training reminder. There's a sexual harassment that all students must attend, or excuse me, must complete, a training that they must complete that's online. So this particular student needs to complete that. Emergency contact information. Every student at Cal Poly Pomona has an emergency contact listed, so they just want you to go in and update that information. And this student also has maybe some immunization records that they need to submit. Now, something to keep in mind is this to-do list item, to-do lists are not holds yet. However, if they don't complete these requirements, they may become holds that can prevent them from registering. So the university kind of does like a warning flashing, red light flashing. You need to take care of these things before they become holds. So I just kind of wanted to share that with everyone. The other thing is, as I mentioned, your enrollment dates are always posted on your main student center page. And so enrollment for spring has not started yet, but closer to October 14th, there will be actually a date and time listed here on your enrollment date section. Okay. And then the other thing is you can find actually a degree progress report in this little drop-down menu here. So in this drop-down menu, that's where you can find the degree progress report, which is what I'm about to show you in just a second. Okay, so this is actually a screenshot of an incoming freshman's degree progress report. And so I've blocked off just kind of any identifying information here, but I wanted to highlight a few things. At the very top of your report, it's always going to tell you your major and your option. So this particular example, this student is a physics major. They started in fall of 2020, which is very important. As I mentioned earlier, your curriculum year is very crucial because you need to know when you started, so you're looking at the correct curriculum. And then the option. So students within physics may switch from general option to biophysics or to integrated science. And so when you do that switch, if that does happen, or let's say you change majors, this would all be updated on your degree progress report. This is all at the very top. Again, you have an overall and Cal Poly Pomona GPA. Now, this student, obviously, this is their first semester here at Cal Poly Pomona, so they don't have a GPA. At the end of the semester, though, there will be a GPA listed in both of these. Now, the difference between an overall and Cal Poly is if you are a transfer student right now, you will have actually an overall GPA because you transferred in with a GPA from your community college or previous institution. Your Cal Poly, though, will be blank because you have not taken courses here at Cal Poly Pomona. So we just want to make sure that you understand the difference between these two GPAs and that these two GPAs always are above a 2.0. I just wanted to kind of also highlight the icons here. So green check mark means you're good to go. So you've completed that requirement either through AP credit, let's say, or a transfer credit course. And so a green check mark means you've completed that requirement. Yellow diamond means the course is currently in progress. And then a red box means requirement not completed. There's some other few icons here, but those are the three that you really want to watch out for. Green check marks, yellow diamonds, and red boxes. And so one of the ways to kind of make sure that you're seeing all the areas of the report is to always click expand all. When you first open your degree progress report, it's going to be hidden and smashed like a sandwich. And so you always want to click expand all to see all the different areas within the degree progress report. On the right-hand side is just kind of a screenshot of like unit requirements. So as I mentioned, 120 units are required for the degree. So this particular student, they've taken so far 36 units towards those 120, and they still have 84 units left to be completed. As a transfer student, you also have to complete at least 50 units here at Cal Poly. So you can transfer in with 70 units, but you have to take at least 50 units here at Cal Poly Pomona. And then just some other unit requirements as well. So these are all going to be red, but closer to the time of graduation, you want to start seeing that these become green because that means that you're fulfilling all of these degree requirements. Now I wanted to kind of show you a little bit of a deeper dive of a physics freshman student. So this is an actual example of a student that was admitted this past fall or is a new student this term. And so this particular student took some APs. And so they took AP Chemistry, AP Spanish Literature, AP US History. This information is listed on the transfer credit report. And again, I showed you those two links that'll show you how to actually find this information, but I wanted to at least provide a screenshot for you. Now, we can only count AP courses if there's a 3 or higher in those AP tests. So these are the tests that the student passed. And so a student will say, well, actually, how do I know what areas and what classes these actually articulate to? So I wanted to show you an example. So for area AP Chemistry, the student got Chemistry 1210 lecture and lab credit. So this is the student's actual degree progress report. And if you can see here, it's a green check mark to mark off the Chemistry 1210 credit. I wanted you to also be able to see the difference of a red box, yellow diamond, and a green check mark. So this particular student is a freshman enrolled in English 1103, so that's why it's a yellow diamond, but they still need to eventually complete area A1, oral communication, and A3, critical thinking. And so this is just kind of a screenshot here of what that would look like from the transfer credit and then put into the degree progress report. And I have a transfer example as well.
Sorry, can everyone see the shared screen? You are sharing a screen, right, Ashley?
Yes.
No,
Can you not see it?
Yeah, don't worry about it. I'm Zoom illiterate sometimes.
Okay, can everyone see it? I hope they can. Okay, all right. This next example is for a transfer student. So a lot of students, again, are transferring in from a community college. This student went to a few different community colleges, so Cypress, Fullerton, Golden West. And so these are just some of the courses that they, again, transferred in. On the left-hand side is the course at Cypress or the community college that they went to. On the right-hand side is the CPP course. And so a lot of students will look at their transfer credit report and they want to see what that looks like onto the degree progress report. So again, you'll kind of see on the degree progress report here, there's a bunch of green check marks with all the articulations. You can also know that it's a transfer course because under status, there's a little green arrow here, and that means that it's transferred in. Also under the grade, it says TC. Whenever there's a T in front of a grade, that also means it's a transferred in course as well. So I wanted to just kind of highlight that. I did want to mention the university, the registrar's office, the admissions office is still processing a lot of your transcripts. So if you are an incoming transfer student, they're still kind of going through and processing many, many transcripts. And so their goal is to have all of your transfer credit reports and transcripts updated and into the system by the time you register for spring classes. So I wanted to pause here for just a second and ask if there's any questions about degree progress report. So I gave you a freshman example, a transfer example, but hopefully that was helpful. I'll pause. If you want to mute yourself, you can, or if you want to put a question in the chat, I'd be happy to answer it. Okay. So just some other helpful tips. I may not necessarily go into each one of these, but the Advising Center, again, we are a resource for you. We have our website linked here. And on this information, we have plenty of information that you can kind of see here on our contact page. So we have our COVID-19 advising information and updates page. And so on this page, we have our email address. You can follow us on social media. I just wanted to kind of put a plug in here and say if you need a permission number, unfortunately the Advising Center does not have permission numbers. You need to contact the specific departments for that. But this is just kind of our advising information here. We have appointments available via CPP Connect, but Physics is also going to talk about in just a second a little bit about their advising process as well. The other thing, though, that I wanted to mention is our career advising information. So we do have a career counselor. His name is Ed Venegas. It's never too early to start prepping for what that next step is going to be for you. If that's going to be graduate school or you know, a job out in the field, it's important to kind of start having those conversations so you know what classes to be taking, what internships to be taking, and to kind of build up your resume. So I always encourage students to connect with our career advisor as well. Bronco 411, that's just our Cal Poly Pomona directory. This is where you can search for faculty and staff. So if you were wanting to find, like, let's say your specific professor's email address, you can always log into the directory and look up that information here. Next, though, is the Learning Resource Center. So as I mentioned, if you're struggling in a course, we really want you to go ahead and reach out to your faculty members, ask them for advice. But then also in the Learning Resource Center, there's a bunch of tutoring and workshop opportunities as well. So this is just kind of the information here. There's tutoring, there's academic skills workshops, there's workshops for writing and grammar, there's tutoring, one-on-one tutoring and workshops available. If you need to have any test preparation, this is all information, and they are open and available during remote online learning as well. Registration guides. This is just kind of a quick registration guide on how to kind of navigate Bronco Direct, talking about holds, kind of some of the things that I just talked about, a diagram of the Student Center. Again, I'll send out this PowerPoint with all of these links, but this is very important and a useful resource as well, just to kind of navigate registration. The other thing I wanted to highlight is the Blackboard page. At the beginning of the summer, you all were added to a Blackboard page that the Advising Center worked very hard on putting a bunch of resources on, so that organization is still available to you, so I wanted to kind of highlight that. And then lastly, Student Success Central. That's just a great resource, another website that I won't click to right now just for the sake of time, but it just has a lot of great information as well. And before I turn it over to Dr. Morales, I just cannot stress this enough. If you are struggling in a course, please seek out tutoring, connect with faculty. We also have the Counseling Center, the Disability Resource Center. But essentially, if you need help, please reach out. We are here to help you. We want you to succeed. We don't want your GPA to fall below a 2.0. And we want to kind of partner with you through your time here at Cal Poly. But I'll go ahead and transition it to Dr. Morales to talk a little bit more about physics.
Oh, very good. We have in the Department of Physics kind of a cultural thing, you know. Look, every discipline has a culture, really. You know, if you're in the physics department, in a few years, if you were to go to biology or chemistry department, it would look like another planet. Okay, just the way the expectations are, how you define success, what you do, the language, and so one of the cultural things that I think is really beautiful about our department is that you meet your own faculty advisor once a semester. So you are assigned an advisor who's a research professor from the very beginning. And normally you would stay with her or him the entire 4 years that you're with us. This is very powerful. This is very powerful. You can talk about your career, talk about your successes, research interests, career plans. Um, this was by upper administration canceled for fall 2020. I don't know why, but it was. Nonetheless, you will get an advisor, faculty advisor assigned to you. You should take advantage and meet her or him right around the time when you're registering for your next courses. So that's a beautiful thing that you should know about. It's a powerful thing to know. It's your first contact with research professors. These folks have opportunities and ideas for success after you graduate, career ideas, research opportunities. So please take advantage of that resource that we have. Not all departments would do such a thing. If ever there's a recitation section, you should sign up for it. Okay, so things like anything that's got an A after it, like an alpha there, you should sign up for that. Ashley, you will correct me if I did this right, but the first year experience, I think it's called Science 1010A, is that right?
Yes, that's correct.
We're now saying any transfer, anybody who's transferring to our department should take that class as well, not merely freshmen. It's clear that you already are organized enough to have survived a couple of years in a college somewhere. But first year experience does more than that. It would be not a bad refresher to have, but it also kind of introduces you to your colleagues and to some of these things that become the culture of a physics department. So those are just some things I wanted to encourage you to do. And start taking ownership of that success. See, these years pass pretty quickly. If you're a transfer student, right away you should already start thinking, what am I going to do in that summertime between my junior and senior year? The nation is rich in opportunities for physicists. They keep coming to us looking for bright minds. So talk to your advisor about that. All right? Good luck.
And if I can just kind of add more, how would students find their advisors as put on the physics website, right, Dr. Morales?
On the physics website, there are no names, of course. There you will be able to locate who you are by the last 4 digits of your Bronco ID.
Yes.
Okay? And so, it's cross-listed like that, and you'll be able to just make an appointment with that faculty member on the basis of that.
Yes. And Dr. Morales will be sending probably, I know all the chairs are going to be sending out an advising email in just a few weeks to all students. So he'll be kind of also sharing that link as well as a resource. So I know that physics is working on assigning everyone right now. So as Dr. Morales mentioned, there's no holds this fall because of COVID, and we just didn't want to put additional institutional barriers. But just because we don't have a hold doesn't mean that we don't encourage you to meet with an advisor. So we definitely would recommend that you still meet with an advisor about classes and things like that. Okay. Almost done here. Thank you, Dr. Miles. Did you have anything else? Sorry.
No, that's all.
Okay.
I could talk forever, but nope, no.
Dr. Morales, if you get a chance to interact with him, he is very entertaining, great resource to have. Definitely would encourage you to reach out to him. I just wanted to kind of end the session here with putting our social media on there. We have a bunch of resources for you. We get a lot of common questions, and so we'll make a video to address those questions. So we have a YouTube channel. We're on Twitter. We're also on Instagram. I would highly encourage you to follow us. We also included the College of Science handles as well. So just kind of putting in a plug there.